Hi everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Praise. I'm going to be sharing chapter 9, which is called Moving, from our Body Clutter book. And this one is all about movement and getting, some exercise, some form of exercise in, adding the baby steps of that, and whatever that means for you. Now, the first thing I highlighted is making sure there is indeed some movement going on with your body. So some of the things that you can incorporate to this is, instead of taking the first parking or the closest parking spot to the store, park a little further, walk a little longer. And that would be something to do, because I know most people, we tend to circle and circle around for the closest parking, and instead we can just park and get some steps in. Now, what we have to do, because getting moving, first of all, if you're not used to doing certain exercises, it's not part of your routine already, walking's not part of your routine, it may be hard to start, and it may be hard to keep going. I know that's true for me. So one thing to view this as is that it's a priority for your health. This is what's going to help you get healthy. So we go to the doctor, you get blood work done, and it tells you this is what your levels are for such and such a thing. This is what you have going on. Sometimes we have to take medication to get us on track, right? So if we're going to do all of that, the next step, and the first step should actually be just a part of our lives, but we don't always do this, is eating healthy and moving, getting movement in there. So that could be anything. If you'd like to add some more walking in, be it get outside, walk around your yard. I like to be out in nature. I like the area that we're in. So I'm going to try to get more walking time done. I've been doing the sit outside and just get into nature in the morning, have my coffee. I've actually did some shorts today, watching the dogs be my entertainment outside. So these are things that you can incorporate in there. Now, if you have a gym close by and that's something that you would enjoy, I know that a lot of insurances right now pay for gym memberships. I don't know. I know a lot of them are for like your city's gym. I believe Curves was one on the list. This is for New Mexico. I don't know outside of New Mexico, but it's something worth checking into. Define Fitness was one. Planet Fitness, I believe, is another and there's probably others. It all depends on what town you are in, but a lot of times your insurance will pay for that. Excuse me, it's really hot today, and I'm just like, I've been using this bottle that I got at Sprouts, filling this up with water and putting it in the freezer so that it'll get ice, and then I put that into my Dunkin' cup and my Stanley cup so they can stay cold, and I can refill that bottle and have some more ice water. So, now, this is the point that I think throughout this book that she has made plenty of times, and I think it's the one thing that we really need to understand. This is a critical part of body clutter. It's not just on our hips, but also between our ears. We talk to ourselves and pull ourselves down before we even get started. So, are you one who has a perfectionist attitude? You want to look at how you can do this perfectly, and if you can't do it perfectly, you're not going to do it. Or you get overwhelmed because it's going to be hard, so then you don't want to do it. It's all the negative self-talk. It's the idea that we have to be perfect, do it a certain way, and instead of just listening to our bodies and how our bodies will function, because that all depends on our level of fitness to begin with, our level of, or what our health looks like, our age. There's a lot of factors that we need to consider. And instead of negative self-talk, consider the factors. Sit down and be honest with yourself, but also give yourself some positive feedback, because you can do this. We can do this. It may take longer for some of us than others, but that doesn't matter. This is a lifestyle change, not a diet, not something that's going to happen within 3 months or 6 months or even a year. It's got to be a lifestyle change. Um, she talks about the messy house, right? Because she's the fly lady, and she teaches how to declutter your home. She says this is how we create a very personal pattern. We did that with our messy house, and we do that with our personal house, our bodies. Too overwhelming, too much work. We start to whine, we start to look for excuses, and we rationalize why we're there in the first place. I wasn't looking at the right stuff. I was looking at the finished product. And by not embracing the process, by baby stepping and focusing on just doing something, I was defeated before I started. And I think that is true. It's true for a lot of us. I know it's true for me. Um, I'm looking at, okay, this is where I was, right? So I started out at 242 pounds. It was my highest that I know of. Um, this was years ago, but it didn't change. For a long time, it just stayed stuck there. But what I was doing was saying, okay, well, I'm at 242, I'm 4'11, I'm supposed to be at, according to some charts, somewhere in the 115s or 120s or something like that, or even lower. So I'm looking at this like, I've got to lose all this amount of weight. And instead of doing small goals, baby steps, I put that right in front of me. And then I looked at it, and then when it wasn't happening, I would fall back into old habits. I start again, and then I fall back into old habits because I was going in with the thought process of it has to be perfect. If I can't walk 1, 2, 3, 4 miles in a day, then this isn't going to work. If I can't run, this isn't going to work. If I can't go to a gym all the time, this isn't going to work. If I can't, if I can't do this thing, then this is not going to work, which is all a bunch of lies. But we feed ourselves these lies because we're used to the negative self-talk. We have a very hard time with positivity, with speaking life into ourselves. We need to understand that our words are powerful, and they can make or break us. We can do the same to other people. Let me see if I can move the mic there, but there, is scripture that talks about our words and how, if I can find it while I'm talking to you, I will. I will share it. If not, I will share it on the screen or later in this video. But I believe it's in the Proverbs, and here's one. It's here. This is the one I was thinking about. I know there's more, but in Proverbs 16:24 it says, "Gracious words are like honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body." So this is the word of God. He's telling us there that gracious words are like honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. So, when you see someone who's going through a hard time and you give them words of encouragement, you comfort them, you sit with them and you tell them, or you praise them for something that's changed. So, like if they've been on a journey for their health, they've been on a weight loss journey, and you see, hey, they lost 10 pounds, they look different, or whatever, you want to praise them for that. You want to tell, like, you encourage them, you are proud of them that they've done all this hard work. If they have been training for something, for a 10K, 5K, whatever it is, and they go and they do it and they place, or even if they don't place in the top 5 or whatever, but they did it, you want to encourage them, and you want to let them know that you're proud of them. Well, this is the same thing with what we're doing, the baby steps. Be positive about this. Speak life into your body. Speak life into your mind, as we do for others. And that's what's so important about having accountability partners, whether that is a personal trainer, if that's what you want to do, or if your spouse is doing this with you, or your best friend, or your family, whatever it is. Encourage each other. Words of affirmation, words of encouragement. Give each other, make sure that you do everything in love, and encourage each other to do the things that you said you were going to do. So if I said I'm going to walk every day for 15 minutes. I need someone to make sure I'm doing this, right? Someone that understands this process that I'm going through and that can speak life into me and speak that encouragement, that give me that motivation. So we all have a wake up call, something that puts us in a position where we have to make a decision. You know, she talks about having to face the facts. God isn't messing around. It's critical that we look at the reality of our situations. We need to assess what needs to be done, and then put the efforts into baby steps, right? So instead of looking at this big picture of how you want it all to turn out and how hard it's going to be and all the time that it's going to be done in there, you have to start small. Make yourself a small goal. So if weight loss is your goal and you have, I don't know, 100 pounds to lose or something, start off with 5, then 10, and keep going, and give yourself small goals. And when you reach them, you'll see, well, look, you gave yourself a small goal, you did it. So you can reach the 100. It just has to come in baby steps. Now, Leanne, the dinner diva, says she's talking about making a financial decision to invest in her health. So she hires a personal trainer. That was her way for showing up for herself. And if that's your way, then you need to do it and make yourself a priority. We invest all kinds of money in, like she says, junk food, diet scams, books, pills. I said junk food too. Junk food is, it's like in the afternoon, and it has been one of those days where I just cannot seem to get my words correctly. So over time we spend money on all these frivolous things, right? All these things that aren't necessarily good for us. They might make you feel good for a while, but what is the big picture, especially when you're dealing with your health? Do some research, do some soul searching. What is it that you can do, and what are you willing to do that is in your power to begin these baby steps? Now, you'll notice after you do even a couple weeks of baby steps. So maybe the first thing you do is just walking for 10 minutes a day for 2 weeks. You're going to notice a change. You're going to notice that you just feel better. You got out. You're doing something for yourself. And as the time goes on, you're going to notice, well, I lost this weight, or I'm choosing better food, and my stomach isn't bothering me. I'm not getting as many headaches. Whatever, if you're dealing with certain illnesses, you're not having flare-ups if you're doing these things that will make you feel better. And it gives you a feeling of freedom, even though you're kind of having to make some rules for yourself. But they're the kind of rules that free you to feel better. Instead of being tied to your old way of thinking and your old habits, you're making new things that'll make you feel better, whatever that is. And one big thing that I highlighted in here that we need to do is start to love yourself. So this is what she says. I started to love myself enough to value the body that God had given me. And I think that's the biggest issue. We look at ourselves, and whatever it is that you think is wrong with you, you make it the focus. We tend to focus on the worst possible thing about us. So, okay, for me, for example, I have had to wear glasses since I was in 5th grade. And the first pair of glasses, I broke them on purpose because I didn't want to wear them because I was being made fun of and I looked funny. And a lot of the stuff of my look funny was my own thoughts. That's just what I was telling myself. And so then if someone would look at me like, oh, she looks funny or whatever, I was looking for those moments instead of it just whatever, because it probably wouldn't even have bothered me if I would have just been like, this is what I have to do. I can see better, because I was getting a lot of headaches. Well, granted, I didn't get my actual start wearing glasses all the time until I was in 7th grade. how long it took me to deal with the situation. I didn't want to. Now, but after that, I could see the board better. If we had assigned seats in class, which you normally did, I didn't have to ask to sit in the front and be embarrassed by teachers, because there was one teacher that, at least in that moment, she was horrible. I don't know. I had her twice for science in middle school, and I'd ask her to sit in the front. Most kids don't want to sit in the front of a classroom. And instead of just letting me sit there, I mean, it might have been the second time that I asked her about it, and I explained to her why. And in front of the whole class, she says, "Oh, what, your parents can't afford glasses?" And, but not in a way where she could have pulled me aside and said, "Hey, if your parents can't afford glasses for you, these are programs," or whatever. And it had nothing to do with that. It was my own stubborn pretending that I could see. And I didn't want to tell my parents that, "Oh, my glasses broke by accident, but I'm fine. I can see." That was the issue, right? But it was after that, it became even harder for me to deal with what was going on. And on top of that, I was already dealing with anxiety and all the other things that come with it, and just not feeling well and not knowing why. And that just kind of pushed me into this way of thinking, like, something's wrong with me. I don't have to wear glasses. Everybody's going to make fun of me. Then I'm one of the shorter ones in the class in my family. I'm the oldest and I'm the shortest, right? And I know a lot of people do it just in fun, and I get that part. Okay, it's fine. But when people are just being mean to be mean, it becomes a problem. But instead of me understanding then that the problem wasn't with me, it was with the people that were doing this, the bullying or whatever. I didn't understand that. I was a kid. Even most of the time as an adult, we don't understand that yet, because we don't think of that. We just think these people are pointing out something that is seriously wrong with us, and we need to change it. Well, I couldn't change needing glasses. I tried wearing contacts, but that didn't last for very long, because I wore them for maybe a year or so. But I have astigmatism, so I have to have special contacts made. So those were made fine. Then I took them home, and they popped out of my eye because my eyes were too small. So I had to have them made a little smaller, and it just was more of a hassle. So I was like, I'll just wear glasses. But all those things stuck with me, and it was just always this, I don't know if it was a fear of not being good enough, and wanting to be good enough. And so I just struggle with loving myself, and I still struggle with this. And even with my faith, I struggle with that, because when the people that are supposed to care about you, whether this be your family, your friends, or, teachers in school or things like that, and they treat you a certain way that makes you feel bad, it sticks with you, and it causes issues. It causes us to start picking out the negative in ourselves. And the thing is, God made us the way we are for a reason. We were made the way we're supposed to be made. I was supposed to be 4'11". I was supposed to have dark skin. I was supposed to have dark hair, brown eyes, wear glasses, whatever the reason was, that was supposed to be me. Now, what I think we need to understand too is, we live in a broken world, right? This is a broken world. It's a sinful world, because of sin coming into the world when it did, since the beginning. We've had struggles. We have issues with ill health and different things. It wasn't meant to be this way, but choices were made, and this is where we are. And so we are going to suffer, but we've got to understand that even in that, we can find joy and we can praise God. And that is my word for the year, is praise, like I've said before, and I've been struggling with it, because there seems like more stuff happens because that was my focus. And so reading this and being reminded that I need to value the body that God has given me, value it enough that I'm using it to honor Him and to help other people. Another thing that I highlighted that she talked about is, another thing that I discovered was a strong correlation between your house and your body. Your body is your most private house. It houses the soul. This is a place where the internal conversations happen, truly where you live. Your house is your environment. and the reflection of its visual order or disorder hugely affects the conversations that happen inside your most private house, your body. I hope this makes sense. This was an important discovery for me. If we have chaos and clutter in our minds, our homes are cluttered and chaotic. That is true for me. I've struggled with that a lot, and a lot of that comes from anxiety and being kind of wanting to collect things that give me comfort. So I collect books, I collect shoes, purses, and shoes not as much anymore. I'm gonna have a bunch anyway, but that's and it's not like I go and buy these extremely expensive purses or shoes. I'm thrift store girl, Walmart, whatever. I don't care, but it's the idea that it brings some form of comfort, some form of finding joy outside of myself, finding things that make me feel better. And but then what happens is it becomes just this habit of bringing things in, and never dealing with the problem. So I hold everything in. I don't deal well with emotion. I don't deal well with things. I tend to pretend that they don't exist, and I'm fine, and I'll just stuff it away. So I get cluttered. My mind gets cluttered. My body gets cluttered because everything that we put in and all the negativity and all the stuff that comes in, it will reflect in our body. Trauma, anxiety, depression, they result in a lot of the health issues that we have. The body clutter, the excess weight, everything comes from and stems from something that we've allowed into our minds, or that someone else has done to us, that maybe we didn't allow it, but it happened and we haven't dealt with that. So because that type of clutter is going on in our mind, we tend to bring things in and bring things in and bring things in, because it's kind of like we're trying to fill that hole, that void of that love that we should have for ourselves. We're bringing it in form of books and shoes and purses and clothing and, whatever it is that you collect. If it becomes an excess in a place where you have no space, you have no free space, no wall space, no to tiny little areas to walk through. Now we see hoarders and things like that, but that stems from a deeper problem. And a lot of that is that we don't love ourselves enough to take care of our body, our house, or our physical house that we live in. When we get our house in order, physical and mental, our body, you're going to notice that these baby steps things are going to change. So if we just say, like, we're going to declutter our home, right? So we're going to get rid of all these things that don't bring us joy anymore. The clothes that don't fit us anymore, whether they're too small or they're too big, either way, they shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be taking up valuable space in your home. We are robbing ourselves of blessings that God could bring into our lives because we're holding on so tightly to those things that we think, I don't know, help us, heal us, bring us some sort of comfort, but they really don't. They just take up space, and then we sit here and we're looking around like I do sometimes. I'm like, I have so much stuff and so many things that I don't even get to use. Sometimes I don't use them because I don't even know they're there, because they're in a box over there, in a pile over here, or whatever, and it becomes a problem. Now, granted, for us, we are in a small space, so we don't have what you would consider excess stuff if we lived in a, 2-bedroom house or something, but this is where we are. So we need to live where we are. So it means decluttering what we don't need, because if it's still in a box, do we need it? Probably not. So these are things that we need to do. And if there are things that are in your mind, all these negative things, write them down. Get yourself a journal, some kind of journal. You can use a notebook, whatever. Get all of that stuff out. Take it out of your mind. Give yourself some grace and surrender it to God in prayer, and get yourself into your baby steps. And if that means adding in some kind of mental health type of journaling for you, take 10 minutes in the morning, write some stuff down. Just start slow if you're not a journaler, but it helps me. I don't know if that's the same for you. Maybe running, maybe walking, doing exercise, or gardening, or something helps you do those things, and talk to God while you're doing these, and share. He knows everything about us. He does. Okay, we know this. But he wants to hear us. He wants to hear it from us. And in us talking to him, that's where the healing begins. So when she talked about when she's gotten her house in order, right? So she decluttered, she did all the stuff. She wanted to redecorate in a way that was, probably spoke to her in this new um, journey that she was on. But if you still have your old clutter, you can't do that. And if we hold on to our mental clutter, our body clutter, we can't decorate it the way it's meant to be. Um, Another thing we have to do is let go of perfectionism and that stinking thinking. Um, we need to be open to the possibilities of these baby steps, because we just assume these things aren't going to work. A lot of times, oh, it's not going to work for me. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. But instead of doing that, we need to try it. Just be open-minded to be open to those possibilities, because amazing things will happen. Now, one thing that I highlighted that she says is, this is a process of releasing our body clutter. It doesn't end with a goal weight. It's a lifestyle change that completely re-energizes your life and changes the way you think. It's making better habits, right? So once you make some habits that you enjoy, you might, at first it might be a little hard because you're kind of thinking, I don't know if I really like this. And you might have to try something different. So, one thing is, okay, so if you start walking and you really enjoy walking at a track, or maybe you don't, and instead you would like to walk out in nature, switch it up. Find the thing that works for you. If going to a gym sort of works for you, but you don't want to go and all the people are going, try to switch your schedule if you can to get there at a certain time. Find a pool that you can go to. Water aerobics is amazing. That was one of the most beneficial things I did years ago. If I could do that again, I probably would if I lived closer to a pool. But, these are things that, that they'll, once you make them a habit, and once you start seeing the results coming from these baby steps of eating better food, and in the process eliminating the foods that aren't good for us, adding in some movement and getting, like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, up to 20, 30 minutes, we're going to notice those changes and we're going to feel better. You're going to notice the weight fall off. Recently I did my measurements again, and I noticed I lost some inches in each spot except my bicep. That was the only thing that stayed the same. And I've lost weight. And, it's like, even if it's just 1 or 2 pounds, it's like, I actually did it, and it makes you want to do more. So that is about half of the chapter. There's, about half. So I'm going to leave this one here, and I will get the other one up soon. So I hope that you have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you in the next one. God bless you. Bye.